So one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Paul, was regarding proximity concerns in the lab. For example, I was talking to, for an upcoming feature, one of the executives is Lawrence Blatt, who's the CEO of Glympse Therapeutics. He's going to be in our July issue. And he was talking to me recently about some of the things they've been implementing around COVID-19, but he talked about employees bringing concerns of proximity concerns of being able to work safely in the lab. And I think you put together a plan around that as well. I wonder if you could share with the group what that was involved.
Yeah, so we were a little bit earlier than most, I think, in anticipating how we might have to work under the COVID situation. I myself was comfortable we managed through, but I have an MD in the company who's an epidemiologist as well. And literally in the middle of February saying, hey, we better get prepared for this because this is going to be a big deal. And at that point in time, we started doing what other people talked about here, which is to triage your programs down to the ones that are the most important. And when we all started moving to working from home on March the 9th, we had our development plans laid out for at least 3 months going forward. But what we did was we asked everybody in the lab to continue working as normal as possible. And the most important thing we had to consider was their own safety. So if you weren't an essential worker for lab work, you had to work from home. That was enforced. I actually went into the office one day on, it was like March the 15th, and I was asked to leave by the lab techs, and I did. You've got to walk the talk. So we actually put in place an early system where we were able to keep people separated. And then the information technology guy we brought in, Nick, was working with one of the lab folk, and we were doing a lot of planning by hand and over the phone, and he basically just got them all together, and they designed software to enable everyone to go in, plan their own lab work, make sure that no one else was going in at the same time who wanted to use the same piece of equipment. We shifted to a shift basis, and this productivity tool has worked really, really well for us. And I have absolute visibility on who's in the facility at any single time for this week and also next week. So everyone can see who's coming in. They can see when they need to pair up on experiments, and nicely, because of that, we were actually able to deliver a critical experiment on one of our programs to BMS, actually slightly ahead of original schedule. And that was because of the level of coordination we were able to bring to it. And it actually has worked quite well. So other companies now are actually asking us for access to this software. So I attend a call every Monday with about 180 other CEOs in Boston and elsewhere. And we've actually started helping through Atlas, which is our venture capital partner, helping other companies to implement the same kind of idea in their own company. We call it Swift, the technology, so which is safe, basically safe working functional tool, which we've developed internally, and now we're sort of willing to let other people use as well.
Paul, I might have to have you contribute a CEO corner about that whole thing. In fact, you're all welcome to contribute CEO to Life Science Leader for publication consideration. I'd be happy to help you with any of those.
Rob, could I just add an anecdote to that? So we also have a similar tool that we're using that we built in-house, and just to add how important this was, we actually had a potential exposure, a COVID exposure. Someone else in our facility, not from a company, was diagnosed with COVID. We were informed, and having access to that tool allowed us to specifically understand who had exposure risk. And there was a brief period where it turned out that no one had actually been exposed, but it was having precise clarity as to who had been in the facility when and who would have come across paths with this person was invaluable, right? And it meant us it stopped us having to shut down the lab. It was absolutely critical. And so it's not just about, the planning and the ability to execute, right? It has real, implications in terms of the health and safety of your employees. And in our case, it stopped us. It meant that we were able to, directly track an exposure issue.